Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'm going to have to wonder if Nigel Farage has been pouring something into the water in Kent. First of all, the county, which is home to our most important trade port, voted for Brexit, thus imperiling the largest part of their economy. Then they voted for hard Brexit, which produced lorry parks all over the place, which they pretended to be upset about, but it's like, you voted for them. Now, after having voted for Reform UK to run their council, my Reform Mayor, Andrea Jenkyns, has confirmed that they also voted for the county to be turned into a giant refugee camp. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So you can tell people don't really pay attention to history because they never seem to realise, as they're supporting populist grifters, that populism always does immense damage to the very people who propel it into power. Sometimes it does the most damage to them. Brexit has certainly caused the most damage to those who strongly supported it. And if people haven't even learned the lessons of their own recent history, like the people who watched Thatcher destroy their local economies in the north of England in particular and hated her for it, and now voting for the man who openly claims to be her biggest supporter. But never mind Nigel Farage for now. I'd like to discuss another Tory in the party, Andrea Jenkyns. Having lost her seat at the general election, she's now popped up to be my regional mayor, winning the contest quite easily last week. And she has been immediately trying to raise her profile with a series of interviews. She's learning from Donald Trump, isn't she? She needs to capture the headlines, right? Someone did point out last week, forgotten who it was now. Someone did point out that Andrea Jenkyns could be a problem for Nigel Farage because she will try to seek the limelight. And indeed she is doing. She began by promising to sack diversity officers working for the council, which Reform UK have also taken over, Lincolnshire County Council, despite the council confirming that it doesn't employ any. So a sign that either Jenkyns doesn't do her research or that she is knowingly lying to the public just for the sake of grabbing those headlines. But then she said something that I'm not entirely sure she thought through on GB News. She said illegal immigrants should be made to live in tents. Now, being clear again, she doesn't mean illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are deported. There's clues in the name. There's no issue from lefty judges. The fact that her party in government didn't do this has allowed Labour to claim record numbers of deportations since last July as they've just worked through the backlog left to them by the likes of Andrea Jenkyns. But anyway, the point is she actually means asylum seekers, people who are in the country legally until such time as the asylum process says otherwise. So people who, like even the rabid Tory government agreed 75% of them are genuinely fleeing persecution or the destruction of their home by climate change or war. Very vulnerable people who need our help, not the Wicked Witch of the North. So anyway, she's saying they should be made to live in tents, which immediately, to be fair, makes her more compassionate than her former and possibly future colleague, Suella Braverman. Because as Home Secretary, Braverman wanted to take their tents away. Because people need to be reminded, despite the false claims by the Tory media and Reform UK, asylum seekers have no automatic right to housing, even when the claims are proven and they are officially refugees. You know, and I said at the time when Braverman was talking about taking away their tents, this proves that they're not given housing. This proves it. She's literally talking about taking away the tents of homeless refugees, people who'd actually won their asylum appeal. You know, many are homeless. They are living in tents already. But anyway, I digress. The GB News host, who might not have expected Jenkyns to be quite this thick, asked if she was seriously suggesting that Lincolnshire would want tent-based refugee camps all over the county. Oh, no, responded Jenkyns. No, that's not what I mean at all. Oh, thank God the GB host news person was probably thinking. Where they come across, she said. Huh? What's a Dover then? Yes, she said. Get out of the ECHR and send them back to France. Now, a few things to note here. First of all, leaving the ECHR would not allow any British government to send refugees to France. Just because you could potentially stop the British courts telling the government not to do it, doesn't mean the French would allow it. There is no returning refugees to France without the permission of France. The best way to return asylum seekers to France is to say to France, look, and I've said this, Labour should do this, we'd like to set up a processing centre in northern France. Would you allow that? And they would go, yes, of course we would. And then you could send them there for processing. And if they succeed, you bring them to Britain. Or if they've got a valid claim and it might take a while, you bring them to Britain. And if not, you can then deport them. France have got sovereignty too, you know. And the irony is that the people in Reform UK are already responsible for higher numbers of asylum seekers in the country through a combination of both Brexit and failing to agree deals with other countries. And if you're going to tell me, no, Reform UK, they weren't actually implementing Brexit. I know they argued for it, but they didn't actually decide any policies. No, you're completely wrong. An increasing number of people in Reform UK, including Andrea Jenkyns, just migrated from the Conservative government. Reform UK are quite literally the same people who were in the Conservative government in different clothing. But it's this idea that Jenkyns thinks that all asylum seekers should be living in tents in Kent, which I found interesting. And I don't think the GB News host could quite believe it. She even asked if this was Jenkyns' idea, who confirmed that absolutely it was, because I guess the host recognised what Jenkyns could not, that this would be a monumentally stupid policy to promote, even if you had it like, you know, in your back pocket. And she probably couldn't believe that Nigel Farage would have signed off on it. Because what Jenkyns is saying is that all asylum seekers, every single one, should be living in refugee camps in Kent until they can send them back to France. But because there is no way of sending them back to France without France's permission, which will not be forthcoming under any of Reform's proposals, then Kent will just be turned into a series of refugee camps. The bits that are already lorry parks to deal with the last stupid thing Reform UK's gimps persuaded them to vote for. I mean, let's just take a step back and consider the situation here. So, various people would have us believe that folk are voting for Reform UK because of their policies and people are turning away from Labour because of their policies. And you think, okay. But Labour are boosting workers' rights, they're boosting the supply of affordable and social housing, they're boosting renewable energy, meaning the cost of energy won't be determined by foreign governments in the future. They're boosting rights for people renting, they're improving the NHS, they're moving it back under government control in England. They're making water companies, executives, criminally responsible for their companies' illegally dumping of sewage. They're boosting pensions, they're boosting minimum wages, and they're boosting public sector pay all above inflation. Reform UK, on the other hand, what are their policies? Well, they want the NHS run by a privatised insurance model. They want to sack 10% of all council workers in the areas they now control. They've said that. And they want to keep us dependent for our energy on the international oil and gas market prices. And they want to turn Kent into a massive refugee camp. I'm not entirely sure it's the policies so much as people's understanding of the policies that's the problem here. And the people who either voted for Reform UK to take over their councils last week or stayed at home because you helped them, I hope they pay very careful attention to what those councils start doing now, because they should see what that vote brought them. In America, lots of people who voted for Trump have now lost their jobs. You know, they're not just sacking Democrat voters. They don't know who voted them. There's people who've openly said they voted for Trump and now pissed off because he's sacked them. Or they found that their businesses are struggling. Some have even been deported. There are people who voted for Trump who are being deported. And Reform UK are openly talking about copying Trump's policies for Britain. You know, let's hope people realise that here before it's too late. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.